Alright, time to talk about some Shakespeare with Henry the Fourth, Part 1. Hey everyone, it's Shannon, and I recently resurrected my Shakespeare project, which is the goal is to read and then see a version of all of Shakespeare's plays. Henry the Fourth, Part 1 is the sixth that I'm doing this for, and I thought since I'm bringing this back together, I thought I would actually do something where I do a vlog giving my impression of what happened in the play after I've read it. So I don't know how accurate this will be, but from just reading the play, and I also did a little family tree of the characters ahead of time because this is a historical, so they're based on real people. I don't know how much, to be honest. But so I did do that in terms of prep work, but then after that, all I did was I read the play, and what I do is I keep a card for each character, and then on the back of the card, I write sort of what happened in a scene or significant moments and stuff like that to help me figure out what I think happened. So that's what I did with these, and I hope I figured it out. So we'll see. We'll see. So this is my impression of what happened in Henry IV. Feel free to let me know if any of this is wrong or right. So I felt like there was two main stories going on. You have King Henry, who is the king, and then there's Hotspur, who is Henry Percy, and there's a lot of tension between them. Initially, the king talks about Hotspur and says like how he's such a great warrior, and he wishes his own son Henry was like him, and gosh, if maybe they were switched at birth, blah blah blah, this kind of thing. So I was kind of like, I thought Hotspur was part of like the king's army and on his side, but then quite quickly it kind of feels like that's not what's going on, because Hotspur captured some prisoners and he decides he's not going to return them to the king. And I think he turns those prisoners to align with him and create a rebellion against the king. But I'm not sure if it was those prisoners or other people. One of the things I found really hard to figure out is what was Hotspur's beef with King Henry. I did come across sort of two things. He thinks that Richard II wanted Edmund Mortimer to be king, and I think Edmund Mortimer, I don't know if I have his card here, I don't even know. There he is, Edmund Mortimer. Who is he? Let's find out who he is. He is the Earl of March, and he is Hotspur's brother-in-law. So Hotspur's wife's brother is Edmund. So yeah, I think I said Edward at one point, but it's Edmund. So yeah, so Hotspur thinks that he's supposed to be king, but King Henry is king, so he's not really happy about that. And then I think Hotspur's dad, also named Henry Percy, because why not, took in King Henry before he was king and really helped him out, and then feels that King Henry didn't reciprocate that. But I can't figure out exactly what it is because it feels so specific. And I read and watched Richard II, and I don't know if what they're talking about happened in Richard II, but I can't quite figure it out. So anyway, Hotspur decides, hey, gets these other guys on his side, Mortimer, Glendower, and Westmoreland. There's two, and there's lots of the names I found confusing in this one, and decides we're going to go after the king. And then meanwhile, back at the castle, we have Prince Henry and Falstaff, who are friends and get into a lot of trouble together. And and then Henry plans a robbery, and I'm not sure if it was he planning it with Falstaff or he was robbing Falstaff's robbery. I don't really understand how that worked. It was a planned robbery. It didn't really go well. And then Falstaff, I don't know if he gets robbed again or if he gets robbed or he was robbed of this robbery and ends up losing a bunch of money, including his family seal or signet or something. But I had a hard time understanding the scenes with Prince Henry and Falstaff. They all felt like they would be very jovial. Most of them were in a tavern, and I felt like they would be really great to see, but I couldn't really figure out what was going on. But I did get the theme of like Henry being like a prince, and every day's a holiday, so you have to make your own fun, and how would you distinguish one day from the other, because you can basically do whatever you want. So there was a very powerful speech really early on, I think it's Act 1 Scene 2, with him talking about this, and it gives this really interesting perspective of sort of like, if you have the whole world at your beck and call, you know, what are you going to spend your time doing? And apparently he spends his time, you know, robbing his friends or planning robberies with his friends. So then these two sort of things meet when King Henry realizes he's going to be battling Hotspur, and he tells his son, hey, buck up. And, you know, and then Prince Henry decides, hey, I'm going to buck up and do this. I'll be a good son. Don't worry. Those days are past. And then, wow, full on war. And then Prince Henry actually says to the king, why don't you offer single combat to Hotspur? There's all these people here. We don't need to lose all these lives, kind of thing. This message almost looks like it's not going to make it back to Hotspur. You know, the people that are aligned with him kind of feel like, no, let's just go, let's just fight, you know, and then they actually do relay it to him. And then I couldn't figure out what happened, because then they just sort of like, the rebels get together and start going, but it's like, I don't, like, did he really decline? Is he really so bloodthirsty that he wants war over the power or what? So I wasn't sure what was going on with Hotspur there. And then there's lots of fighting. We have Douglas, the Scottish guy. He comes in. He's just like crazy man, and he just takes on everyone. I don't know where he is. And he takes on and kills Blunt, Sir Walter Blunt, I think, who says he's the king. That was really confusing too. But so Douglas thinks he's killed the king, but alas, he is not. Hotspur's like, hey, that's not him. I think it was Hotspur. And then Prince Henry saves King Henry from Douglas. He goes away, and then Douglas fights Falstaff. Falstaff feigns his own death, and then Douglas goes away. Douglas is the one that just keeps attacking everyone. And then there is actually a fight between Prince Henry and Hotspur, and Prince Henry defeats him, kills Hotspur, but then later Falstaff stabs him in the thigh and says, no, I killed you. And I really don't understand what's going on with Falstaff. There's this really, when he loses the money, he has this really long monologue, and I couldn't really figure out what was going on. There was a lot of bitterness there, and I was confused because he feels like he's friends with Henry, and then he feels a little two-faced on this stuff, and then Falstaff claims the kill of Hotspur, and Henry's kind of like, you know, fine, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. Like, he just lets him do it. And I felt like that was, I wasn't, like, I felt like what was going on there was he saying, hey, we're good friends. I'm not gonna stand by and contradict you, or what was going on there. So I don't know. So pretty much King Henry's folks defeat the other side mostly. They get Thomas Percy, who's Worcester, and Richard Vernon captured, and they say that they're gonna he leaves it up to Prince Henry to decide what to do with them. No, they get killed, but then there's another prisoner that, maybe it's Douglas. I can't remember this specifically, actually. Whoops. That my notes. That's my other notes. I think Prince Henry decides to let someone go and be like, no hard feelings. And it might have been Douglas, and I'm like, that is not the guy to do that with. So anyway, and then the king says the fight will continue. So I found it pretty engaging. I found it pretty hard to find some of the motivations, especially Hotspur and Falstaff. But I know that people love the character of Falstaff, so I really, really feel like I'm missing something. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it, especially the scenes between him and Henry, because that'll set the tone of things. And I also really wasn't sure whether the Hotspur was aligned with the king at the beginning or not, because it really felt like there was this tension here and the king wasn't really aware of it, and what was that about, and is that true? You know, because the king doesn't seem like a really mean guy or anything, but he's played by Jeremy Irons in The Hollow Crown, so I don't know about that. You know, so it's like, what's going on with that? And so I get the Prince Henry character a bit. Like, I get the sort of like, you know, life's really fun, and then, oh, all of a sudden there are things going on, and oh yeah, I'm gonna stand up and fight. And I thought that was good. I thought he was an interesting character to follow, but I wasn't quite sure. Like, I really want to understand his friendship with Falstaff better, because I feel like it had that sort of turn, and why did that happen, and was it intentional, and there's, you know, being Shakespeare, there's usually some kind of misunderstanding, especially with those kind of situations, but it didn't feel like that. That's more in the comedies, I guess. So yeah, so I still have lots of questions. I'm looking forward to going and watching The Hollow Crown. This series was my inspiration to do anything in terms of getting back into Shakespeare, when I heard about this one, I thought it would be fun to go back and watch and read stuff, and I did, and I did Richard II, and I might actually rewatch that because it feels like some of the things that happened in Richard II inform, definitely inform. I don't know if they were in the Richard II. Some things in the past that Hotspur and his dad and uncle are mad about definitely seem to have happened in the past. And I don't know whether they're true or not because they don't really address each other particularly. The king seems to be very, forthcoming and understanding and willing to take a non-violent route, and then everyone, like, they just are like, ah, war, so I don't know. So there you go, that's my impressions of Henry the Fourth Part 1. I'm really curious how close I was at all in terms of what actually happened and people's motivations. Feel free to let me know. I'm gonna go on and watch the Hollow Crown version of Part 1, and then I'm gonna go straight and read Part 2, because this obviously comes to a and we will continue kind of thing. So I gotta get my index cards out and make new ones for the people that survived and are in the second part. So there you go. Let me know how if you enjoyed this Shakespeare vlog, and we'll see what happens in part 2. Thanks for watching.